Hey everybody, it's Aldo Gandhi, and I just want to let you know really quickly that our swag shop is reopened. DeepDishTees.com is where you go, and that's tees with T-E-E-S. Clever name, guys. They're the new home of our merchandise. You can get t-shirts, you can get caps, you can get coffee mugs, you can get hoodies, you can get all sorts of good stuff, and you'll help out the bar room with the purchase. So head over to DeepDishTees.com.
This is the Bears Barroom Radio Network. The following program is recorded live and intended for all audiences.
Radio is scripted now. We just come up with it. We don't use computers. We don't rehearse. We're going to talk about this next. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Bulls. And then we're going to have Brad Bixon. And then we're going to have all this. No. If you don't know what you're going to talk about in the top of your head before a show, you shouldn't be in the business. I don't know what you got. I feel like Vince Vaughn in a couple's retreat. The Sharks are circling. Old school, baby.
You're listening to the Mike North Advantage, and it begins right now.
That's right. The Mike North Advantage starts right now. I am Aldo Gandia, Mike's wingman, and look at him. He's dancing, he's prancing, he's doing whatever he wants to do because he's the star of the show, and he's my good buddy, Mike North. How are you, my friend?
Aldo, that's one of your better ones, and it's great to be with you once again as we explore the landscape of a ever-changing world here at the bar room, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, changing every day, changing minute to minute, second to second. Just one of the phenomenons of the current age that we live in. Yeah. Are we going to wear one? Are we not going to wear one? Should we wear one? Maybe we should, or maybe we won't. I don't know. I'm just trying to get the landscape and the tenor of what's going on in this great country of ours, which is still the greatest country in the world, ladies and gentlemen. I think 99% of us agree on that. That's all I want to say.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And Mike, what a great time to be a Chicago sports fan. There's so much going on. We got the Bears in camp. We got the Cubs ready to sell out the old guys and start anew. We got the White Sox battling for a pennant. We got the Chicago Bulls next week with the draft. We got all sorts of stuff. The Blackhawks are making changes. The Blackhawks have saying, hey, let's get everybody's mind off of this sex scandal. Let's bring in some players here. it's
anything you can do to get somebody's mind off a sex scandal, I'm with you.
Exactly. So I ask you, where do you want to start with all the sports talk? Because we've got the pick of the litter. Any Chicago sports team, there is something to talk about. And of course, there's Aaron Rodgers. So that we have to talk about that thing because that was, in my mind, it was Aaron Rodgers bitch slapping the Packers organization, but the Packers organization sort of walking away saying, this is really what we wanted. We just want him for another year or so. So I don't know.
Yeah, he aired his grievances. I had no problem with him. I liked the part that he brought up, and this brought into what I was saying when I first started with the bar room. The Jordy Nelson release was it was ridiculous. I had somebody say to me yesterday and name off all the people that have been cut, including Clay Matthews and other people, saying, Mike, these guys were near the end of their careers, and I didn't want to get into it with them. I figured we're going to be on the bar room, the Mike North Advantage, the Win Daily Advantage with Aldo. I'll bring it up to tomorrow. Jordy Nelson had 63 catches. Mm-hmm. Had as good a year as Allen Robinson at the time. That's where the argument derived from. Mm-hmm. And if you were Aaron Rodgers, I remember, I'm going, why did Oakland get rid of him? I would have loved to see the Bears pick him up for $1 million at the time. And I've proven to be right because that's the one release I know stuck in his craw. You took away one of my receivers. You just let him go like he's a piece of garbage. Mm-hmm. So I automatically really felt good about what he was saying because I felt the same way and I didn't even play for the Packers. How do you let Jordy Nelson go when you have Aaron Rodgers on that team? And that's exactly what happened. Clay Matthews, I thought, had some good football left in him. Mm-hmm. Just let go. Mm-hmm. I mean, I wanted the Bears to go after him. I mean, he went somewhere else. Maybe these guys were at the end of their careers, but there's a certain way to handle things. So I thought Aaron Rodgers and I never back Aaron Rodgers on too much, was right to stick up. I used to stick up for the people in the radio business and stuff like that, not only from the stations I work at, but to other people, because I had that kind of sway back then, or I could say something. But I stood up for my own guy, so I understand that. Bottom line is that I just think at the end of the day, Green Bay got what they wanted. He's the one that turned down the extension. He got 2 more years on the current or 3 more years on the current deal. So that's no sacrifice. He said under no circumstances would he ever come back again. Ever. We were hearing from everybody. Adam Schefter, he won't be back. We were here in Denver. All of a sudden, all these geniuses are saying, well, it's good that he's back and everything else. No, you were all wrong again. Right. And I was right on Bear Barroom. I've been saying all along he didn't want. And then they're saying it's not about the money. They're all full of crap. These people fight over a check. The media people fight over a check, a $10 check. And you're trying to tell me that $30 million, $20 million that Aaron Rodgers would lose. Warren Buffett don't want to lose that. So that's a bunch of crap by a bunch of media people who basically are afraid to even say boo to their bosses and basically won't fight for another dime. They're just happy to have a job. I've been on all ends of this spectrum. I've renegotiated deals. I had a deal. I took it 5 more years, renegotiated my deal. I lived under the current deal 2 more years. I had 7 years of security, had a ton of money. So if I wanted to, I could have said I don't want to. I'll wait 2 years. I could have done that, take a chance. But I decided no. And I did the right thing. Aaron Rodgers was not going to walk away from $30 million. No way, $20 million. After the COVID deal where he could have gotten out of it, it was all Green Bay. Green Bay has won this thing, even though he took him to the brickyard yesterday.
he definitely did. I got 2 sound bites from that press conference. The first one is his reference to those veterans. I shortened it so I didn't include the long list of names, but Jordy Nelson was prominent on that. Randall Cobb, Clay Matthews, as you mentioned, Micah Hyde, and so forth. This was his complaint with how the Packers have treated veterans.
And I just expressed, my desire to be more involved in conversations that directly affected my job. Also, I wanted to help the organization maybe learn from them some of the mistakes in the past, in my opinion, about the way that some of the outgoing veterans were treated.
And so he's basically saying that they were either lowballed or they were dumped unceremoniously, that they should have consulted with the quarterback who's throwing to the receivers about, hey, what do you think about maybe letting Jordy go? And so all of that makes total sense to me. The guy is the star. If I am running a radio network and my star, Mike North, doesn't know what I'm doing, then I'm making a mistake. So that's how I see that.
Well, I'll give you a perfect example. I was at doing radio, and it was like yesterday. The station decided they didn't want to carry Les Grobstein overnights anymore. Okay? Guess who was on the next day going, it was a stupid decision. Okay? Guess who's back? Okay? So I've always stood up for the guys. Anybody at any station that wants to say I stood up for myself more than anybody. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have an agent call, hey, so-and-so wants to know this or so. No, I used to stand up for myself, but I also stood up for other people, tried to get some people more money. You won't hear this from them. Okay? That's just the bottom line. But I did it because I wanted to do it. And I understood, having been, at the low end of the totem pole for a lot of my life. I was selling hot dogs, of course. I was a vendor, stuff like that. I wasn't in a high income bracket. Then I got in a high income bracket and I got a little more power. So I tried to help. So I understood exactly where he was coming yesterday.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Makes total sense. Eric in the chat room says media are such clowns thinking Rodgers was leaving $30 million on the table. I get it that they feed BS for views. Yeah, Eric is totally right. They a lot of media members come up with these scenarios. Yeah, he's going to walk away from $30 million and blah, blah, blah. Come on. Come on.
And I could tell you, the media is so wrong on so many things, and they're so biased on so many things, and this is one of them. Okay. Aaron Rodgers bitch slapped the Packers around. So what? If I'm the Packers, I'm thrilled. I was looking at a bad case scenario, except I wasn't, because Aaron Rodgers would have had to retire from the game.
Yeah.
Period.
Exactly.
And then he's the bad guy. He said, I still got the fire. Of course, they knew that. They were in charge. But the media, who's never been in charge of anything except basically trying to get upgraded on a flight, and their bosses tell them, no, you're still flying coach, most of them, basically think they got the answers. The same people have been doing the same job for 30 years, and they're telling other people what they should do with their careers.
Exactly.
Aaron Rodgers lost some credibility, and then he acts, well, they come here to play with me. Well, no, there's no you without the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
That's the point that he misses.
Yeah.
See? That's why he's not beloved around America like Tom Brady is. Tom Brady made a clean break from New England. If Aaron Rodgers had a 20-year career, he'd screw it up on the way out. Brady did it the right way. Rodgers did it the wrong way and continues to do it the wrong way. But Green Bay don't care. You got to play for us, and you're looking to get out next year. I'm telling everybody this. I'm going to say he's going to end up being a Packer the next year too. But everybody says he's got an out. Yeah, but he's got an in too if he wants it.
Interesting take. Okay, so this was my favorite soundbite of yesterday's press conference with Aaron Rodgers when he basically said nobody wants to come to Green Bay. It was a slap in the face to all people in Wisconsin. Here it comes.
I wanted to offer my services as a recruiter, and I think we can all understand, Green Bay isn't, a huge vacation destination. People are coming here to play with me. To play with our team and knowing that they can win a championship here. And the fact that I haven't been used in those discussions was one I wanted to change moving forward.
Now, a few things to unpack there. First of all, the Tourism Bureau in Green Bay must be going nuts, right? It's like,
no, because every time a team goes to Green Bay, those fans come there and make a lot of money for the Packers. So what he said, and by the way, I don't need him to be a recruiter. If I'm a wide receiver and I'm a free agent, my agent knows that Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback. I know that Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback. So Aaron Rodgers, was he going to fly all over the country and make phone calls and say, please come, I want you? If the Packers are making a bid on somebody, and maybe the real question is maybe they didn't make enough bids. But I look at proof in the pudding. He won the MVP and they were in first place. Now, is it all because of him? No.
Of course not.
Devontae Adams is another guy, okay, that is starting to cry. And don't ever compare yourselves to Pippen and Jordan, okay? Jordan alone equals you two guys, okay? You got one Super Bowl. So it's a bunch of garbage. The Last Dance. Give me a break, okay? The Last Dance. Give me a break in a phone booth, okay? Guys can dance together in a phone booth. What a joke. So that's how much they think of themselves, the two biggest stars holding out from a team that has basically taken care of them pretty well.
But Mike, let me fight back a little bit on that one, because I do think that the professional sports has changed a bit, and that you're seeing, especially in the NBA, players recruit guys to play with them, and they're building super teams. And we're sort of starting to see the beginning of that in the NFL. So wouldn't it be cool if he reached out to a player and said, hey, I know you're a free agent. I would love to play with you, blah, blah, blah. Come to Chicago. What do you think?
Yeah, it would be cool, but I think that if I wanted to play for the Green Bay Packers and they were the only place I wanted to play for, okay, which is not the case. There's a guy in Tampa Bay that I think a free agent wide receiver, okay, well, we've seen it. We've seen Antonio Brown. Now, Tampa Bay went after Antonio Brown, but I don't think Aaron Rodgers would have talked Antonio Brown into playing in Green Bay. I think Tom Brady would have. Everybody acts like Aaron Rodgers because he was MVP, is the best quarterback in football. As the full package, it's Tom Brady. He's got 7 Super Bowls. He's a recruiter, okay? They let him do it. but that was on the condition he come there. I'll get you Gronk. Maybe I'll get you Julian Edelman at the end.
Yeah.
Other people, Antonio Brown. I think Tom Brady, even though Aaron Rodgers was MVP, if Tom Brady called me and I was a wide receiver and Aaron Rodgers, it would be a no-brainer. Brady, the nice weather, great team, even last year, good organization, and that's it. I mean, Brady, if the Green Bay job was open last year, he wouldn't have taken that job because of the weather. So I understand where Aaron Rodgers is coming from, but man, he's not even the best quarterback in the history of the team if you go by titles. You know, you got a tie with Favre and you got 2 with Bart Starr. So we'll see what happens. I think it's going to be interesting. They're minus 140 to win it all right now, which maybe it won't happen. Maybe it won't happen. I'm starting to change my mind about a few things in the North Division, the more that the days go on.
Well, we'll be talking about the Bears shortly, but first I want to finish this topic with Eric's question here or thought. If Rodgers leaves the Packers, the Packers will fill the stadium year after year with or without him. He is not bigger than the team. I think you agree with that, right?
Yeah. The Green Bay Packers are one of the top franchises in all of sports. And it's and when you are insulting the town, you're insulting most of the owners of the team. So they're going to deal with this. They're going to pretend maybe it's like a Tom Brady situation. Hope they get the best out of him. Rodgers has a carrot in front of his nose because he can't have a bum year, can't get hurt. He's got to basically get the job done. So, I mean, to me, they're in a good spot, Green Bay, right now. We'll see what happens. We'll see if teams' feelings are frayed or what have you.
All right. Before we talk about the Bears, Tony has a question. He says, what do you guys think of Deshaun Watson being able to practice with no restrictions? The NFL has not put him on the exempt list like they've done other players in the past who have been facing some criminal charges and so forth. Your view, Mike?
22 women. A lot of issues. I think that we got to wait and see what's going on. I'm not privy to all the information. But I saw him walking around at the camp like he doesn't have a care in the world, and he should. We'll find out what happens here. There's been no games played yet, so I'd rather just reserve judgment, man, on this one because I don't have enough information. It's been sort of quiet,
right?
You know?
Yeah, I will say this. We have learned that the NFL doesn't treat people equally. And in terms of penalties and in terms of how they do things. And so I'm not going to make a judgment just like Mike, because we need more information. But
right,
the NFL definitely is not a great justice system.
No. No, but I'll tell you what, if he plays a game, there's all sorts of still issues on the table. We've been hearing there might be a settlement, and they've denied that. This thing has sort of been quieted, if you will, but it's not going to go away. We know that. Right. You know, it will start to focus again the closer they get to at the end of camp and with the games.
Right. All right, let's talk Chicago Bears because I'm a sucker for this stuff. I get super excited at the beginning of every season. Hey, we're going to go 17-0 this season. And one of the things that gave me hope was Matt Nagy, the guy that you and I like to criticize justly and fairly, I might add. But he said this about one of his shortcomings as a head coach in the past, which was about how he conducted practices. I want you to hear this and react on the other end.
You're going to see and feel a team that practices hard. And so that emphasis that we're talking about is going to be on a different level than what y'all have seen in 3 years here with me. I talked to you guys like, how can I get better? I don't think I was good enough in my area at being a head coach and overseeing practices and the tempos of practices. It's going to be different this year.
I like that.
Yeah, but I said that 3 years ago when he didn't play the guys, when he didn't play the starters. I mean, that's despicable. I don't care what kind of line of work you're in, to sit people out in practice games and then go into the season, to be that arrogant, right, to be that short-sighted. to make that type of mistake, to jeopardize the progress of your players by not playing in actual game conditions, okay, was just unsatisfactory to me as a football fan and a knowledgeable guy of the NFL for so many years. Now, we don't go overboard like the Bears used to, even though they won a Super Bowl. McMahon said by the end of each year they were exhausted because they did two-a-days every day and beat the crap out of each other. The best games they played, he says, was Monday through Friday. That was that extreme. But to not play your starters showed me he was still in assistant coach mode. He still at times looks like an assistant coach to me instead of the head coach of the team. He doesn't have that overall presence. He was more a players get along Joe type of guy. I think now that we're hearing they're going to have tougher practices is an injustice to the progress of what that team should have made over the past 3 years, and shame on him. Shame on him for waking up in year 4, screwing up the Trubisky situation to the point where a starter is 29-21, and from what I'm hearing, wanted nothing to do with you after he was replaced unceremoniously. And you also got a team that is still employing Nick Foles. So to me, this is a joke, this whole thing. He was not prepared to be head coach at the time. He got some wins, talented team. And by the way, I had been saying, because we had been seeing pro football this, pro football that, pro football focus, pro football hocus pocus, saying Khalil Mack was one of the players that was one of the top 10 rushers last year in football. It was refreshing to hear Khalil Mack say he was basically shit for the most part. So the nonsense you read from stat freaks and the nonsense you hear from these people that write these so-called blogs that are supposed to know what they're talking about, you heard from the man. He said, I can play better. No kidding. I watched you. You weren't a wrecking ball except a few times last year. We're going to play 17 games. And I kept hearing what kind of wrecking ball this guy was. I didn't see it last year. Now I'm hearing it from a guy that stands up and says, I'm better than I have been showing. No doubt about it. But all the media kissed his, you know what, tush, and say, oh, pro football, this, look at how great it is. No, you didn't watch the games.
Wow.
My God. Just a bunch of crap coming out again, propaganda. I like Adam Johns, okay? I'm looking at Twitter today. I don't know if you saw it on my front page. Go to North to North, folks. That's where you get everything that you need to get. Believe me when I tell you this. It says here, it looked like Justin Fields held on to the ball too long and forced some passes into tight coverage yesterday. This morning, Matt Nagy explained that the short practice was carded and the quarterbacks were told where to throw the ball. Today should be a better look at both QBs. Why? Why? You're throwing into tight coverage. Wait a minute. What? Because they know you're going there? What are you doing? I mean, it's just a bunch of crap. Justin Fields, that wasn't the point. If you knew where he was going, if he knew where he had to go, why did he hold the ball so long?
But
because he dropped in the draft for reasons that we will find out down the line. He's not going to beat Dan Marino in his first year. And I saw Sylvie with one of his tweets. Does a good job with them.
Yeah.
Who's the most important Bear in 2021? 75% said Justin Fields. Are you people nuts? Are you people out of your minds? This would be Nagy's swan song if he starts him day one. Remember, I was the guy that didn't want Cutler. I was the guy that didn't want Foles. I'm the guy that said Aaron Rodgers is coming back. At some point, I'm going to have Aldo just check things, my predictions, and then we'll play him back for everybody. Here's what I'm telling you. The Chicago Bears will win 3 to 4 games if Justin Fields starts the season because of injury or anything else. And it could jeopardize his progress. It better be Andy Dalton. It's good to hear that he's playing some sharper football right now, Aldo.
Yep. Well, and he addressed the media. Well, first of all, I want to say I didn't pull this soundbite, but one of the things that Matt Nagy said, and Allen Robinson said this about Andy Dalton, is that he is great with anticipatory throws. And Mike, you and I have both played a lot of football in our younger days, and we you know that when you're running a pass pattern, when you turn your face and that ball is there where you want it, and it's there at that second, there's no stopping. There's no stopping an offense. And that apparently was something that both the coach and wide receiver applauded Andy Dalton about, which is
and Justin Fields is not ready for that. And I'm trying to tell everybody, you got your Justin Fields jerseys and everything else. I'm happy for you. But he dropped. There's reasons. He holds on to the ball. He's not playing with Ohio State where they were heads and tails better than everybody else. He's playing with a head coach that didn't even think practice was important his first 3 years. I mean, seriously. That's what this guy said just now. Mm-hmm. I hadn't even heard that cut. Mm-hmm. You know, the first, I could have been better. I didn't think practice was important. What? A country club. Club dub. That's what they concentrated on. Then each year it got easier because they got successful early with the non-practice crap. Mm-hmm. But as far as him not playing the starters, it will go down in history to me as one of the top 3 Bear coaching idiocies of all time.
Ravi says,
Ravi
says Dalton can manage the game and make throws in a mid to short West Coast offense passing game. Start Andy.
I'm not saying that people shouldn't say that Justin Fields is important, but 75% of the fan base, you're not really hardcore Bear football fans. You need a big year out of Mack. You need a big year out of Quinn. You need a big year out of Roquan Smith. They're important. You need David Montgomery. You need Allen Robinson, to me, is 10 times more important than Justin Fields. Come on now. Let's not be idiots here.
I love your.
I mean, I don't know what's happened to Bear fans over the last 10, 15 years. But I mean, it's crazy. It's completely nuts that you think a backup first-year rookie is the most important guy in Bear camp. It's nuts.
Interesting take by my man, Mike North. And speaking of Andy Dalton, this was him meeting the media a couple of days ago. And he was asked, you know, what do you think about all this hype that Justin Fields is getting? And, you know, how is that difficult? Is that difficult for you to kind of deal with that? This is his response.
He's a first-round pick. I understand that. But I also understand that I'm the starter. And I understand that I knew I signed a one-year deal. I knew that I was going to come in. I was going to be the starter, regardless of the situation coming in.
I thought that was a great response. Yeah, I get it. He's a number 1 draft pick. Everyone's high on him, but I'm the starter, baby. That was good.
And if he starts the whole season, who knows? Because I'm starting to hear people doubt the Bears completely. Doubt them completely. Mm-hmm. I was on the under 7.5 list. I'm taking another look. You can do that until the season starts, until you put in your bet. But I'm hearing Minnesota is going to be, if Aaron Rodgers didn't show up, they were going to run our lives in Chicago. I'm here to tell you no, although Trubisky, I think, was very successful against them. And that's the pressure. Trubisky he couldn't beat Green Bay, but neither could Cutler or anybody else. But he beat Detroit and Minnesota. So my point is, that's what Dalton's got to do. Let's take care of those guys. Maybe we squeeze out a 1-1 with Green Bay. Now we got a little mojo going, you know? So we'll see what happens there. But I'm comfortable with Andy Dalton. I mean, I've moved on. I know Buffalo and Josh Allen yesterday making, your comments saying they love Trubisky. They're lucky to have him. We'll see what happens. For people that think Trubisky's going to be a backup, he'll be a starter next year in the National Football League. There's no question in my mind. This was a year that was what would you call it? A lame duck year, a last year of a deal.
Yeah.
He will be a starter next year. You wait and see. I'll say that now. That being said, let's move on. Let's hope Andy Dalton gets off to a good start, because if he does, then it will leave the knuckleheads no option. I mean, there's people that still want Tony La Russa replaced because they lose a game to the Royals. I mean, that's how naive Chicago fans have become a lot.
Eric in the chat room is criticizing Justin Fields because he says that Ohio State quarterbacks usually don't pan out. But I kind of disagree with that, because Every player should be judged differently. He's got to, which is probably why he needs to sit, because he needs to learn a whole new system. He needs to get whatever Ohio State taught him, get that out of his system, and bring him along like the Chiefs brought along Patrick Mahomes. Perhaps that's the way. But Mike, I've heard you be critical of Ohio State's quarterback factory, so to speak. What do you think?
Because they are a factory. They throw the wide open receivers most of the time. You got guys like Joey Galloway that played for him. You know, we can name you by David Boston. I mean, I can name you a million great receivers that played for him, you know, and most of them have fizzled. Now, it's sort of like if you own a restaurant. I call my buddy who owns a restaurant. I go, do you have a waiter you could send to me, one of your best waiters? Mm-hmm. He says, yes. He sends a waiter over. The guy spills drinks the first day, we get rid of him. Can you send me your second best waiter? The same guy sends me 6 waiters, and every one of them screws up the order. Uh-huh. I'm not. That's what Justin Fields is looking at. It's a trend. Yeah. All of a sudden, trends don't matter when it comes to Ohio State. He's got to show me, because he's from Ohio State, that he's going to break that. And I don't know if that's the case. And I think you don't have to blame him for that. But I mean, Dwayne Haskins is already off Washington. Mm-hmm. He was supposed to get the job done for them. Chico Rivera couldn't wait to get rid of him. Okay. I go back to Rex Kern, who was a great quarterback for Ohio State in the 60s. They made him a safety when he got to the National Football League. Yeah. Braxton, Terrell Pryor. I know people are saying, well, none of these guys is Justin Fields. Yeah. Most of them were coming out. They were all drafted pretty good, and it just didn't work out. I hope it does, because if Justin Fields doesn't work out, we're looking at another decade.
John Hogan with some harsh words about Bears fans and a certain radio station in town, saying they have gone downhill in the past 10 to 15 years. Both have gone to crap. You want to comment on that, John?
Well, you know what? I don't listen to that. I don't listen. I really don't. I mean, I got my own projects. I like listening to the shows that I do and listening to places that I work for. I think that the reason that at times terrestrial radio, especially in the sports market around the country, has problems is because of certain hires or what have you. But maybe it's certain ideologies and stuff like that. I do know this, that the bottom line is that podcasting has become very, very popular over the last 5-10 years. And that's because in a lot of different areas, including syndicated radio, it hasn't become better. So people got a million places to turn to. I'm happy with what's going on at Win Daily. We have a very steady audience every day. Every time you and I do a show, unless there's technical difficulties of some kind, we always do a good number. So I'm happy. I think if sports radio was in a better place, it would hurt podcasting more than it does.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And you can catch Mike North on ESPN 1000 every Friday night on the Odds Couple with him and Carmen DeFalco.
Oh, had a good week last week. Oh,
I know. I saw that. I saw you had a really nice week.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry. When I have a bad week, I send out a tweet at 4 a.m. When I have a good week, I send out that tweet, retweet it, and then send another tweet throughout the day. I send out the tweet that says I suck like the other day. You never see another one. Until the next day if I suck. Last night I went 1-1. I watched the Twins game last night. Oh my God. They're losing 10-0 in the 5th to the Tigers. Then they make it 10-6 in the bottom of the 5th. People had Detroit 5 innings, the first 5 innings. A grand slam ties the game. The score ended up 17-14. Detroit, we had the over in the Minnesota game. We had Detroit the first 5, Johnny Jansen and I. The only game we lost Minnesota at that 17-14. What a garbage fest.
Wow.
Yep.
I didn't even know that. All right. Let us talk about baseball. Let's talk about the Cubs and the White Sox. It appears that sometime over the next 28 hours or so, because the trading deadline, I think it's 3 p.m. Central on Friday, that the Chicago Cubs are going to move some of their big names. Chris Bryant has been rumored going to the New York Mets. Javi Baez now is rumored to go to the Mets. Anthony Rizzo going perhaps somewhere else. And, of course, their relief pitcher, who has just played sensational baseball. Craig Kimbrell, he's got an ERA of under 0.50, under a half a run per game. What do you think about this perhaps massive sellout by the Chicago Cubs?
If they're going to do it, do them all. Get rid of them all. I don't want Chris Bryant kept by himself. I don't want to pay a guy $250 million that's injury prone at times, sits out for hamstring fatigue. I don't care if people love the guy or not. I don't care. Get rid of them all. Get rid of bias. Get as much as you can. Rebuild the ball club if that's the way you want to do it. Buy some free agents. Go by the same plan you did. This team has lost it. They lost their edge. Rizzo, big deal. Okay, you hit 3 homers 3 days in a row. Guess what? The barn is closed. The door closed. Okay? Now you're going to hit. You're going to be a regular season hero. Good. I'm happy for you. Get rid of him. Get rid of everybody. Let's it go. Get rid of them because you get then a bunch of good pieces, and then hopefully you've rebuilt. I was not for this a week or two ago, but you know what? I'm looking at the landscape here. You know, even the way Baez acted the other night, you know, in that game, you know, undoing his shirt, not even the first base, just a lack of managerial discipline with David Ross on this team. It was a buddy plan designed to lose. So see you later. Get rid of them all. Let's start over again.
Interesting take. We talked a little bit about David Ross last week, and, you know, we're starting to speculate maybe this isn't the right guy for the job. Do you have any further thoughts about David Ross and his?
Oh, he's the right guy for the job. He took the job. He's the right guy for the job as far as catering to people that made him, to Rizzo. You know, I don't care what anybody says. You bring Ozzie Guillen in that dugout, it's a different ballgame. Maybe we don't lose 10 games in a row. Okay? I said this earlier, and then they went on a winning streak once I brought it up. Maybe it was bad timing on my part. They won with Ross for a while. But you cannot discipline people that got you that position. It's tough to discipline Rizzo, who carried you on his shoulders. You know, it's tough to discipline Bryant. You don't have the job. You don't have any jobs, basically, without him. He's doing what he's told, like I think Ravi's saying, to the most part. He can't discipline his team. I thought Baez, I don't think there's a Little League coach out there that wants to see a player rip his jersey off, almost off, not even at first base yet, you know? And everybody thinks it's so cool, unless it happened to the Cubs. Then the same fans think it's a hot dog move. Okay? You got a problem with the pitcher, that's fine. Where is this? And I like Baez as far as he's got power and he's got some numbers.
Yeah.
You know, I've said if you want to keep one, that's fine. You know? But if you're only going to keep one, where are we going? Yeah. You know, we had a team that had Hugh Darvish, Schwarber, a lot of other guys, and they started breaking it up. And, you know, Jack Peterson is gone. That was no big deal. But these guys have been given more opportunity. It just hasn't turned out.
Yeah. Vinny Parisi, co-host of Crosstown Crosstalk, was critical of Javi Baez, saying he just doesn't get on base often enough, that this is a league where your on base percentage has to be high, and that, you know, swinging for these pitches outside the strike zone and having that low on base percentage is not winning baseball today. Your thoughts on what Vinny said?
I agree. I agree with them. And I think the Cubs are looking at all this. I think if they get rid of these guys, we'll thank them very much for the one World Series, and we go on. You know, the video tributes next year will be sickening if they're all on other teams that the Cubs will run, you know, but we have to sit through them because they did do something that nobody had done. So I give them all the credit in the world, you know. But the bottom line is, from Joe Madden on, it hasn't gotten any better for these guys. You know, even Chris Bryant, I mean, he's got a nice year. But we got to keep him. No, you don't. You don't have to keep him. You really don't.
I appreciate all of Ravi's comments in the chat room. He's very active. He and other people believe that the Cubs should start the rebuild process just like they did prior to the World Series. But Mike, that was like 3 years of awful baseball. I mean, season ticket holders were like saying, no, I'm not going to renew, because it was just, they were tanking to get high draft picks. I hope they don't get that bad.
No, I mean, you watch teams that are surprising, like the San Francisco Giants. Nobody predicted them to be where they are. Boston's playing better than people anticipated. Some of these teams, see, the Cubs act like a small market team. I mean, they should buy a couple free agents, but they got a plan that maybe this is no different than Theo Epstein coming in with Jed Hoyer. I mean, it's really his patron saint, Theo Epstein.
Right.
So we're going to see the same thing. We saw what Rick Hahn's done. The White Sox with the weak division they're in, and the outstanding baseball and outstanding managing that they've done from La Russa on down, they might be around for 5 to 6 years. They might be pertinent. Can they win a World Series? Are they good enough right now? I don't know, but they're going to be around. And I think the Cubs are going to go that way because then they save money. They don't go out and buy high-priced free agents like a Chris Bryant, come back and be Ernie Banks.
Yeah.
Be standing alone for most of your career until you get Billy Williams and Ron Santo, and you still end up short.
Yeah, I agree with that. Last question on the Cubs, and then we'll talk some White Sox, is one of the things about the Cubs that spelled their doom, in my opinion, is that they traded away so many of the young guys, and perhaps they made a mistake and traded away the wrong guys, like Kyle Schwarber. I mean, this guy is hitting bombs in Washington. Should he have been one of the guys let go as opposed to one of the other guys? And there have been other young guys that they traded away to get pieces to win the World Series, but perhaps it was the wrong guy to trade. Any thoughts on that?
My thought is I didn't have a problem with Schwarber going.
Okay.
He's made a liar out of me. But I did have a problem with Darvish going. And they haven't made a liar of me.
Thank you.
I didn't want Darvish gone. Once I saw Darvish gone, I said they're giving up already. Yeah. They don't want to win. You don't want to win. I see where Seattle traded a relief pitcher and the whole locker room's upset. Okay, the Seattle Mariners yesterday for some middle of the road starter. And the whole team's upset because they're like 2.5 games ahead of the Yankees in the wild card. What are you doing? What are you doing? You got a chance to win. What does that tell your fan base?
Right.
So when I saw Darvish gone, I said it right here. I said, we're done. What are they doing? They can win it. I saw 79 was the over-under. But they don't have a real good manager. They have players who tasted success early and never were able to accomplish it. They did get into the playoffs, but they fell short. I think most Cub fans would agree. I thought this team would be a 2-3 championship team within a 10-year span. It's never going to happen. And Joe Madden is the perfect poster boy for this. Who thought he was? I always thought the manager of the team that for the Cubs that won the World Series would be, they'd change the name of the town.
Yeah, right.
Instead, his restaurant closed and he was sent packing. So
isn't that weird?
It didn't turn out like everybody thought.
No, it really didn't. Once again, in Chicago sports history, we don't get the dynasty that we thought. Now, of course, Blackhawks did pretty well in the early part of the last decade, and the Bears, of course, not the Bears, the Bulls had their great run. But yeah, this is another Chicago sports team that should have won more championships, just like the Bears in the mid-'80s.
The Bears, I remember bringing up 3 years ago, the Cubs could be one-hit wonders. I didn't think, maybe I thought that, but I still thought it, even after 216, is an outside prediction. It was an outside chance. Now I look like a genius. I said they could be like the Bears in 85, the White Sox, in 2005. That's a one-hit wonder.
Yep.
I mean, so that's what we're known for. We can't sustain success in any of the sports that we are, except for the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
Except for the Blackhawks. I knew they'd win 2-3, or people were predicting, and they did.
And they did. Eric asked a question about Ozzie. He says he needs a job somewhere as a manager. Maybe the Yanks need another tough love dude. Your good friend Ozzie Guillen, should he be a manager in the major leagues?
When you're a rebel, when you're boisterous, when you embrace certain unpopular things, believe me, I know this. When you are not politically correct, your chances of employment at certain entities are limited. And that's what I feel has happened to Ozzie. I believe that no matter what he does, I'm happy he's on television, but I'd be surprised if he gets something, because, there was just some issue with him and Mercedes, saying you're lucky to be here. Other owners read that.
Right.
They don't want to hear it,
Right.
if they want to make a move, a general manager. Ozzie is too honest for his own good. Same with me, same with a lot of people, but we don't compromise. And he's got a nice gig where he's at right now. I hope he's happy.
Yeah, I tell you what, that post-game show that he does on NBC Sports Chicago is must-see because of him. He's really good at it. I mean, he's opinionated. He tells it like it is, and then he's funny.
And he was right about Mercedes.
Yeah.
He was right about Mercedes. But like I said, I understand that. I don't own the team. Okay? So, somebody says, oh, boy, if I picked up this guy or that guy, what would he do? I think Ozzie's learned, but they won't give him a chance. Okay. I'd like to see him get one. I don't know if he'll get one.
Let's talk White Sox. What are your concerns about this bullpen? They started out really good, and lately it's been kind of a problem. You ain't got any concerns before this trade deadline? Should the White Sox look for bullpen help?
How about them pick up Kimbrel?
Ooh, that would be huge.
Well, I mean, but here's the deal. I can see why they're hesitant to get trades, especially for everyday players, because they're getting their guys back.
Yeah.
Lewis Robert hit a homer yesterday in Charlotte. Yeah. Eloy's back. He's playing good ball, made a nice catch the other night, hitting the baseball. That's like acquiring players.
Yeah.
So getting the injured back is like acquiring players.
Absolutely.
They've held their own with 5 of 8 starters out. I think that they'll be fine. If you want, pick up a bullpen guy. Okay, but if he's not going to be any better than anybody else, don't pick him up just because he's a different name. So I like where they're standing. Grandel's coming along. So we'll see what happens. But I think anytime they get somebody back from injury, that's why they're not making trades, because we're getting our guys back and they're better than anybody out there. Who are they going to get that was better than Eloy? Nobody. So they're waiting their time, but I would like to see maybe a little more pitching help, but who wouldn't?
And it's
I'm on my game today.
You are.
There's no excuse. I haven't even stuttered. I mean, it's like it's crazy. We go sport to sport. It's like going from ride to ride back in the day at the amusement park. Yeah, every ride's great. What are you going to do?
That's right. Going to Riverview and just go on from ride to
just
ride.
Go from the Bobs to the Silver Streak, to the Rotor. Just go 1-1-1. It's all good. The parachute, shoot the shoots. Come on now.
We got breaking news, and it's courtesy of Joe Mandel, the co-host of South Burbs Hitman. I'm wearing their T-shirt, by the way. He said that ESPN is reporting that the White Sox are finalizing a deal to acquire second baseman Cesar Hernandez, who has 18 home runs this year. Cesar Hernandez from the Indians. If that is correct, what are your thoughts on that, Mike?
Well, I've always felt bad for the Cleveland Indian fans. You had Trevor Bauer gone. You got all sorts of guys that were Lindor gone. And trading within the division?
Isn't that weird? That is really strange.
Yeah, well, the Cleveland Indian organization the last month has shown very poor judgment on a lot of things, in my opinion. When 90% of Native Americans, and by the way, I grew up adjacent to an Indian area. Don't call an Indian a Native American. They like to be called American Indians, but they've made one misstep after the other. This cannot sit good with the Cleveland fans. So if we can get somebody like that, I wanted the guy that went to San Diego, Frazier. I wanted Adam Frazier. I watched him make a play yesterday for San Diego. That's the guy I wanted. Don't know much about this guy, but man, what do we have to give up? We'll see. What do they say we're giving up?
No word on that yet, but I'll try to get an update before we get off the air. We got here about 10 minutes. We got to get to your pick. Finally, I want just one more question regarding the Chicago White Sox. I love getting your kind of weekly reports about White Sox manager Tony La Russa, because it's like a stock report. At the beginning of the season, he was, I think, fairly criticized for a couple of decisions that he made. But then after that, this guy has gotten an A+, I think, in most books. People who are still criticizing Tony La Russa are being narrow-minded. What are your thoughts about Tony La Russa? Is he going to win the Manager of the Year for the American League?
Unless they give it to that cheater, Alex Cora. I mean, if they give it to him from Boston, he shouldn't even be allowed in the game, my opinion, or should be banned from winning any postseason awards for what happened.
Mhm.
That being said, I think it's La Russa and Kapler, San Francisco's manager and the White Sox. The people that are going to criticize Tony La Russa, we will lose in the playoffs probably.
Mhm.
And that's when he'll get criticized.
Mhm.
Okay, we went this far with Renteria. No, this guy, what he's done, I've never seen 5 starters out of 8 out of a lineup and continue to play good baseball and believable baseball. And I got to give Gavin Sheets. I mean, where do these guys come from? I mean, come on, getting the job done. Guys that step in, give the players all the credit in the world. Picked up Dallas Keuchel. Whether he's good or not anymore, I don't know. But that was a big pickup that puts into the player's mindset that things are going well. Eloy's back. So, they weathered the storm, and they're playing in a division. And I don't want to hear how weak their division is, because not everybody picked the White Sox to win this year.
Who has been more valuable to the White Sox this season? General manager Rick Hahn or manager Tony La Russa? Ooh, that's a tough question.
I think that it's been La Russa, because Hahn's main guys all got hurt. Okay. But very narrow margin. Very narrow margin. He picks up good players. I mean, the guy's a lot better than I ever thought. I'll be the first to say it. He took hits from everybody.
Yeah.
I'm the guy to tell everybody I didn't think this was going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't care what division they're in. They go out and they win their games. It's not their fault. Go get better organizations. Don't trade second baseman with 18 home runs, and maybe you'll be able to compete. Minnesota's Minnesota was supposed to do it again. They're horrible. Rocco Baldelli still got a job. I mean, I'm Italian, but I'm not that Italian. If you're not getting the job done, it just looks horrible. They came in out of shape and everything else. So La Russa has been Jerry Reinsdorf deserves credit, stepped out. I believe some people in the organization, it might have been Hahn, who knows, didn't really want him. And it's turned out right now, genius hire.
I got to tell you, Ravi has been on fire in the chat room. A lot of other people too, but particularly Ravi. And he puts this out here, which is something that you said weeks ago. Tony La Russa called out Mercedes, and the media ripped him. Guess Tony knew more, and that is something that you said as soon as it happened. I think it happened the very next day we had a show, and you were like, "What are people talking about? Do you know anything about Mercedes?" And you were right.
I detailed stuff that the media didn't tell anybody. They were all bleeding hearts for this kid.
Mm-hmm.
He was a guy that was given an opportunity. But this guy was a 300 hitter for 3 seasons in Seattle. You didn't hear that except here on Barroom.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't hear people go in that he's had problems at other stops. You didn't hear roommates say, he was a goof, but a lovable goof. No, he was a goof. Okay? He's eaten himself out of positions. He wasn't. He didn't work on his catching. He was a loafer. You didn't hear none of that.
Mm-hmm.
And La Russa, and probably La Russa's the one that talked him into going back after he retired. You're a one-day story, and he hit a home run. He's back. Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
I'm from the Ozzie Guillen school of if you're not on the team, we don't care. Period. That goes from former Olympic champions to baseball players. If you ain't on the team, I don't care. It's a and by the way, congratulations to the young lady who won the gold today in gymnastics.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it amazing? She had the wherewithal. I thank her for not crumbling. I thank her for performing. Where I come from, if you don't finish the job, you're a quitter. That's the way I was taught. Don't ask me how to. Don't ask. You could view somebody as a hero if you want, any way you want. I was taught you finish the job, and even when I didn't finish high school, which was my choice to get out, I was called a bum for quitting high school. So I understand that people are going to say that. Everything you're hearing on TV, go out in the street and talk to 25 people. You'll get different reactions. From where Aldo used to live, from where I used to live, you will not get, oh, poor her. Not from everybody, but from some, and I respect that. Okay? she's a great example of what you should do when you do have a problem. She's not a hero. Audie Murphy was a hero. Look them all up. The policemen are heroes. First responders are heroes. People, there was a dad that just pulled his kid out of a car, burned 60% of his body. He's a hero. Okay. Somebody that says she's stressed out for a week and can't perform, in my world, is a good example if she did hit a block for anybody that has mental problems, and a lot of people do in this country. So she was a great example. But in my world, the way I was taught, she's not a hero. But good for her for jumping out if indeed she felt she had to do that.
All right, before we get to Mike's Win Daily pick of the week.
Oh, the stress.
Yes, before we get there, I want to share with people another tease segment of a project that I am fortunate enough to work on, and that is the Mike North Autobiography. Every week, we're doing little teases of what is going to be a huge compilation of Mike's stories about his childhood, about his professional career, about his relationships with people, all sorts of really great stuff. Some that you've heard, a lot that you've never heard before. And I think a lot of people don't know this about Mike's education. And we know a lot, people who know Mike North know that he had a little bit of trouble in the classroom, but here's an insight into a very personal part of that. And again, this is a tease. Here it comes.
My dad and my mom was more concerned about education that it sort of like blurred out the good things, because I was so bad at school that, I'm on all-star teams. I'm one of the best athletes in the neighborhood. I get along with everybody. I work. I'm bringing home money. I'm 13 years old. I'm working paper routes. I'm doing everything. I'm a working man, but I wasn't bringing home good grades. So I doing 10 good things, but that one son of a bitch and bad thing is the school. That fucked our relationship up. Because parents back then were so afraid. Oh, you got to get an education. You got to get an education. I get an education every day. I just don't get in the classroom, Ma. And she never believed me. Now she does. She looks at me now and she goes, Jesus.
Yeah. My mom said to me one day, she says, about a year ago, she goes, I still don't believe what happened. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it really was true back then. It was all about education. It really was. When I dropped out of high school at Sen, which was on Glenwood, God bless Sen High School, I think the dropout rate, there was 5 or 6 of us that dropped out. Now half these schools lose kids. Mm-hmm. It's like a badge of honor. And when I dropped out, I was called dummy. I was called, idiot. My friends, they loved me, but I had to make new. I lost a lot. I didn't go to the prom. Wasn't able to play on the sports teams. But I went to work about a year later for the city. Then I started my journey and went in the service. Went to acting school. I learned so many things on the street, and that I would have never learned even at an early age had I stayed in school. That being said, I've always encouraged kids to go to school. I'm a diamond in the rough that got lucky, and you should go to school. I've always been, but I don't think if you're a parent and your kid's doing bad in school, you should look at everything. Look at him as a well-rounded kid. Is he getting in trouble with the police, which I wasn't? Is he a good in sports, which I was? Is he polite when he goes out in public, which I was? Does he cause me much trouble? No. But when you do bad in school like I did, and I was bad, they're fearful. So I love my mom and dad, but that was one point where I always disagreed with them, and it worked out.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, there's so much to
Good cut.
Topic. Thank you for. It was difficult for me to choose a cut because when we talked about your education, it was so complex. There's so many layers as to what happened. I mean, you talked about people thought that you had an attention deficit disorder, although nobody knew anything about ADD back then. But I
used to drink. I used to drink my dad. This is how I went to school. This is the truth, folks. My dad would have a couple beers at the end of the night. leave his beer bottle on the table. Okay. He'd have coffee in the morning. Okay. He'd leave his coffee cup on the table. I'd get up before anybody. I'd go to the go to his table, drink what was left of the beer. Now I'm like 8. Drink what was left of the beer, and then drink the rest of his coffee. Then I'd have 2 bowls of Frosted Flakes and then go to school. Okay? Wired.
Oh, my God.
Just absolutely wired. Okay? So, I mean, it's not, you can't make it up. I did that every day. You know? I mean, my dad, every day. You know? He did leave a scotch and water on the table once. I took a sip of that, almost threw up. You know what I mean? So that was my life, you know? And, So I mean, that's exactly what we were dealing with here. Then you run into the nuns, you know, and that was no picnic. And, then you get put back in 7th grade because you can't stand school. You're not, you go to Sen, and after the 2nd year, I hate this. Get me out of here. My uncle gets me a job, thank God, with the city at 17. I was bringing home pretty good dough. Yeah. Plus, I was still, so I had been a vendor and everything else. And then, I changed down the line. But, man, I mean, those first 17 years were rollicking, baby. That's all I'm going to say.
Tremendous stuff. The story you got about the nuns and stuff is unbelievable. All right, you want to give us a pick? Because I got...
Yes, I do want to give you a pick.
Yeah! Let's remind people that it is Win Daily Sports that brings this pick to you. They have employed the great Mike North to help make us a little richer. Visit windailysports.com and follow them on Twitter at WinDailySports, and make sure you catch Mike every day, Monday through Friday, on his show at the Win Daily Sports Twitter channel. Mike and his co-host there do a fabulous job. It's a 20-minute, fast-paced show that gets you ready for your betting day. And so what do you got for the Barroom Network today, Mr. Mike?
Well, I'll tell you what, there was a lot of tough games. There's a lot of doubleheaders today and stuff like that. It's a 12:05 game. I'm going to take the Philadelphia Phillies plus the 120. It's my only pick, plus the 120. Or you could take the run line if it's reasonable, plus the 1.5 against Washington. It is a 12:05 game. Make sure. I think they may have a doubleheader today. I didn't even check. And remember, those are 7-inning games. No, it's all one day today. They're 9 innings. Once again, take the Philadelphia Phillies over the Washington Nationals. Aldo, back to you.
Thank you. And that's what I'm going to do, because I need a winner. I've lost over the last 2-3 days. I've lost 5 bets, so I need a winner badly. So I got to listen.
Last year we won almost every game. This year you're betting. You're going off on your own. But you know what? We're too old to climb mountains. Let's try to win a bet, right?
There you go. Well said. Mike, I love you. We'll see you next week, brother.
See you tomorrow, buddy.
All right.
Or see you next week. See ya.
All right.